We all know that Sarasota and Manatee counties are beautiful places to live, but how easy is it to afford to live here? If you ask those younger than 40, they'll tell you it's not very easy. Unravel did a survey with the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, the Manatee Chamber of Commerce, and the Manatee Millennial movement to see just how hard it is for younger folks to afford to live here. The answers were pretty surprising. About half said that they were considering leaving the area due to the cost of housing alone. Another half said that they paid about 30% or more of their take-home pay each month on housing, which means they meet the basic definition of being housing cost burdened. Another 1 in 6 said they paid 50% or more of their income each month on housing. And another 1 in 6 said that they live with family for friends or free or reduced price rent. So how are local people coming up with creative solutions to the local housing crisis? Watch the videos to learn more.
Currently, we're doing all right, but we are going paycheck to paycheck currently. So really, we have to think about every purchase we make. We do have a little bit of fun, but
not as much as
we currently are not at the point of being able to save up. And really, our goal is to get a house.
Yeah.
We're a good couple of years off.
We haven't really saved much at all because we have to live paycheck to paycheck, and anything that we do save goes towards bills because we're in such debt. The only reason why we don't have a house right now is because we are in such horrible debt and we need to pay that off to get our credit back up because we're basically screwed right now with our credit. Well, we work a lot with our job with architects and developers. I don't think that they really understand, especially our generation. It's been hard to really explain it to them that, you were able to get a house right after you graduate high school and be able to go to college when you can pay for it. I'm not going to be able to pay off my debt from school until I'm in my late 60s at this point.
We've been very lucky with Carlton Arms. We have looked around a lot, and really from what we've seen, either it's too expensive or it's a bad neighborhood.
Yeah,
and that's our two options.
Yeah, and we found Carlton Arms, and it seemed like the most affordable place that we could find because everything else was just crazy. We thought originally that it's going to be so much cheaper, and to a degree it is, but I didn't know what it would be like down here, and it's beneficial for us and it changed our lives, but it's still very expensive, and it's hard for people that we know that want to move down here. They can't afford to, and we barely made it. We made it because his parents helped us. We didn't know about Bradenton before we moved over here. I didn't know about it until I started working for a company. I thought that when I first arrived over here, I was like, oh, it's cute. And then I saw different areas. I'm like, maybe it's not that cute. But I don't know, it's very different than what we're used to.
The stuff with the projects we're working on, we're seeing that a lot of things are being built high end. They're a lot of people are coming here, so now we could get people to spend more money to be here when they should possibly think about building up instead of out. When we actually got down here, we're seeing that especially Sarasota is really high end. Bradenton is a little less so as expensive from what we've seen, but more options for not old 55 plus or 65 plus neighborhoods, but really it's you could be on one side of the street and it's too expensive. You go across the street and now you've got a crime area. Yeah, if, with a little more affordable housing, we would be able to spend a little more money towards paying off bills, paying off credit cards, and saving up.
Yeah, it's kind of like a never-ending cycle of paying money and then just being broke for a week or two. But yeah, I mean, at least we have our cat child.
Yes.
I'm living with my parents because it's helping me out financially. And with almost $900 worth of student loans every month, I could not afford to live in the community that I love that I call home, that I work in, without that help. Well, I love living with my mother. She's amazing. She's my best friend, really. And I moved around a lot. I had moved almost 37 times in my life. My father was in the military, and I was away from family quite a bit in my college years. I wasn't able to come visit. So being able to live with my mom right now is a way for me to connect with her, to stay connected. The cons, well, you know, she's like a roommate, so every once in a while we have our tiffs and our squabbles, but ultimately I love her, she loves me, and it's the best. I love being in the same place with my mom, and I would want to stay in the same community with her as well. She's my family. I was living in Miami. I relocated up to find better work, better opportunities, and I really have found that. I connected well here in this community. This is a place where I can see myself staying. I love it, but at the same time, there's a lot of difficulties in finding something that is reasonable. What surprised me the most about living in Sarasota and coming to this area is that the prices were quite astronomical. I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and the market is very fair. You can find a beautiful 500 square foot, fully renovated studio apartment and have it for $425. At least that was my experience. It was a wonderful community, safe community. You cannot find that in this area. But then again, it's Florida market in general. You start finding areas to cut back in, you know, your lifestyle. You find things that are free. You scour Google. You look for ways to have a life when you're really financially burdened. And this market really does put a crimp on your style. But, you know, I wouldn't change it. This place is wonderful. We are in paradise. I think that the community has to really step up and voice their opinion for what they want to see in their community. If they want housing that is fair and that is nice and attainable, you know, if you really want a change to happen, it has to start with you, and it has to start with your community, and it has to start with you getting your voice and talking to your commissioners and talking to those who are in charge of housing and development and being there, holding yourself accountable and holding your community accountable, because if no one speaks, then it really just falls on you and you not saying anything.
Well, I bought the house about a year ago and very quickly realized that I can't afford this place by myself. At least 30% of my income every month is going towards the house, but I definitely felt like I needed a little bit of assistance just trying to afford the place and still pay for everything else.
Between student loans and my car payment, car insurance, health insurance, dental, vision, you know, everything just adds up, becomes a financial burden on myself, and I don't want to have my family have to help me out with that. So living with other people is really a great kind of aid to that kind of financial build-up.
My lease was up at my other place, and he was like, hey, I could use some help. I was like, yeah, me too. So I moved in, and we get along well, but I mean, we're young, we like to go out. I have a brand new car, insurance, you know, all my bills. We like to go out too, so we want to have a little bit of cash. So that's why I moved in.
Right, in this age we're supposed to be saving money for savings accounts and 401ks, so it's important to save as much as we can and still have a little fun at the same time. So.
But it would have taken me 2 years at least to save up enough money for a down payment. And basically my parents were like, look, you know, we'll help you out if you pay us back the money. So they were able to loan me that to just get going, because they said the way they were seeing it, the housing market's only getting more and more expensive, not less. And they said if you have to wait another 2 years to put down on a house, you may be getting, you know, an older model or something you don't really want. But yeah, I mean, even with that, it still is 30% of my current income. And you know, I picked a place that's new. I mean, I kind of went out of my way to pick something that I thought would just get better over time. But I also had to take a little bit of a higher mortgage in order to do that. So this is how I get under the cost burden, is because they're willing to live with me and deal with my stuff.
Everybody.
Right, it's just a lot cheaper for everyone involved. So we save a lot of money not only by living together in rent, but also in just living expenses, daily activities. Okay. Basically,
Plus, roommates were friends, so
right.
You got to keep that relationship going.
So when I knew I needed to bring on a roommate, I could have just gone to Craigslist and probably charged a lot of money to have somebody live here, but I wouldn't know who they were. They wouldn't have any obligation to, you know, help out around the house or anything like that. They would just be showing up, paying the rent, and leaving.
I mean, I looked downtown and there was no way I could afford it. Even me and him were looking when my lease was up together. No way both of us. We could afford it, but we would be living in a place, paying our bills, and that's it.
Living and working.
Barely scraping by. And I don't want to just live to pay bills.
Right.
I want to have fun. And
What you expect when you're trying to look for a place, you got to put down a good chunk of money in order to have the down payment, and you have to be committed to living in that place for at least 5 years. You know, I mean, really, I guess 3 technically, but 3 to 5 years easily, if not more, in order to get your investment back. And so this is kind of where I'm going to be for the near future, because you know it's not really a starter home anymore. It's too expensive to do all that on your own, or even just with one other person. I think, well, I for one was thinking that I would be settled down by the time I was 25, and that I would have a roommate, which is the one, but yeah, that there wouldn't be any need to, I guess, between having 2 incomes and having 2 people fully committed to a place, you could get your own place, which looking back at it, even now, that's still probably not possible, even if there was just one other person.
I mean, when I first moved down here, I lived with my aunt and uncle for like a year, and then I got my own place. I was paying $11.50 a month for a 1-bedroom in Venice, and it was expensive. And then I found a roommate and we got a place, which was cheaper, but Venice was too old, so I wanted to come up to Sarasota. Venice shuts down at 7 o'clock.
It's something that both employers and government officials and just everyone, even young professionals, need to kind of work together and try and figure out a solution that actually works for everyone, instead of well, you need to do this and you need to do that, and I'm just going to sit here and wait for you guys to do those things before we can make it work. And I think that's really big on young professionals because we're already having to deal with it. So we want to be part of the solution first and foremost because we want to make it work. We're already having to deal with the brunt of it, and by and large, employers aren't seeing it or have to deal with it. Government officials don't have to deal with it. So for at least bringing their attention to it and getting them to the table is really going to help us at least not only have our concerns heard, but be part of the solution.
The bottom line is it's too expensive to live there. When I first got the job, I looked around at Village of the Arts and places around Bradenton, but there's really nothing that comes close to the rent that I have here in this area. And the commute is only about 30-40 minutes. It's not my favorite, but I carpool, so just monetarily it's worth it to be here. Right, I mean, it is. I've brought this up with my friends and coworkers before, but that is my job, is to make Manatee County better and a place where communities want to live, so there's definitely an irony there. I was surprised that living up here was so much less expensive than down there. I mean, I didn't think Bradenton was a super desirable area, but it's just different crowds and a different market there. They can just charge a lot more because most of the people are retirees that can afford it. Well, that's the whole thing that we've been doing with the Millennial Conference and everything else. I mean, I know the Land Development Code was just approved just this week to allow mixed use, and they changed some of the zoning issues there. And we've worked with developers, so hopefully it can start to change. But the bottom line right now is just it's a different mindset. They're old school down there. And my job is to make it a better place to live, and there's a lot of activity and a lot of focus on the issues right now, so hopefully we can turn it around. Just really the price, the high pricing, the lack of affordability. There's maybe I know in Manatee County, 4 or 5 of my coworkers live in the same Carlton Arms apartment complex, and the waiting list to get in there is over a year long. There's just not enough places to live that we can afford. We're all in this. I mean, it's not as simple as, a developer says, okay, now I'll build a house that you guys can afford. I mean, everyone is affected by this issue, either by the wages, the employers, the people trying to work there, and we all have to come together. We've started the discussion. Now it's time for follow through. This isn't going to happen overnight. We just changed the Land Development Code. The last time that was updated was in the 80s. So we're moving forward. It's a long-term plan, but I believe we can turn it around.